Women of Culture 365 presents Glow, a greater level of wellness. With your co-host, Mia Alman, founder of Women of Culture 365 and Glow, a certified life, health, and nutrition coach. Sophia Green, producer and host of the Sophie G Radio Show, bringing you words of wisdom. Don Hewitt, certified holistic health coach on how to treat the whole body. And Lady Q, founder of Sisters of Faith and Pink 360, an evangelist and certified life purpose coach, bringing you spiritual advice. Join us as we go Facebook Live every third Tuesday at 7 p.m. to talk about the mind, body, and soul, a conversation you do not want to miss. Please bring your questions as you discover the power of your glow.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Glow 365, which equals greater level of wellness. In this segment of Glow, we are bringing awareness in July for Graves' disease. And our special guest will be one of our co-hosts. She's our Ribbons of Survivors 2019 for Graves' disease. And her name is Dawn, and she'll be with us in just a moment. But before we get started to talk about Graves' disease, let me bring in Sophie, which is going to be sharing some of her words of wisdom and a whole lot of stuff, kind of flashback from last month. Hey, Sophie, how you doing?
I'm blessed. I'm blessed. How you doing, Lady Mia? I'm good,
I'm
man.
wonderful.
It's such a good feeling to be here again. It's amazing how the
Yes,
weeks can fly real fast,
I'm
Um,
telling you.
yes, it is. But before we go any further, I think I want to take time out to just reflect a little bit as to what we did last month.
Hmm.
Just in the event, for those who missed it, last month, June was Men's Health Awareness Month. And what you missed was a really good show. We had two doctors here and somebody who shared their experience, in regards to what they were going through with us. We had Dr. Lynch Ronald, who's a private practitioner. He's owned his private practice, operated in the state of Florida for about 25 years. And we had Dr. Pat Smith, who is a licensed dietitian and nutritionist, and they were giving us information as to some of the ins and outs, as to some of the things that we see, unfortunate things that take place with our men of color in general, some of the things that are lacking and what leads to underlying diseases, leading to really big issues because of the lack of uh, attentiveness within themselves in going to go see their doctors. We also heard personal testimony from Professor GT, who a lot of us know him for his really distinctive voice, especially here in the state of Florida. And he was kind enough to and vulnerable enough to share his journey as to the challenges he's been dealing with personal health and how it affected his mental status. And we got tips as to how to apply tools and in eating healthy and learning how to take care of ourselves by following up and going to see our doctors. And there was so much information, a wealth of information from persons who were professionals in their field and professional in experience, both being on the receiving end of the unfortunate side of being ill. So if you missed it, you missed a good show. But we got some really good tips, and I hope that those of you who watched it were able to take away from it and apply what you learned to your living now to ensure that you have a better health, a wellness of health. And if you missed it, you can always catch up on KUO Magazine, the official pages of any of the, whether it may be Glow 365, Caribbean Under One Magazine, or any of the links that are attached to this website. Feel free to dive into it. But we got a good show lined up for you right here today. And I can't wait to hear from our co-host, our sister, Dawn Hewitt, who's going to share her story with us coming up right now. Right, Lady Mia?
Yes, definitely. This month is National Graves' Disease Awareness, and I kind of have a understand that part because, I was also diagnosed with thyroid disease, which for those that don't know, that's part of Graves' disease as well. So she's going to give us some insights, her story of going from hope to courage and how she's been coping and just keep doing her thing. She was our 2019 Ribbons of Survivor Graves' Disease Ambassador. And she's also one of KU Magazine traditional medicine journalists that gives us great stuff
Yeah.
on, different herbs and stuff to heal our body. So I'm so excited for her to be sharing her story. So let's bring Dawn in and start the conversation. Hey, Dawn.
Hi, ladies. Mia and Sophie. It's so nice to be here in this capacity today. Thank you so much.
Hey, sister. Yes.
Hey.
So let's start the conversation and kind of going back. When were you first diagnosed?
I was officially diagnosed with Graves' disease on April 14th of 2017. And I'll never forget that experience. It was a life-changing moment.
That is awesome. And how was it detected? I know for me, my thyroid, I have hypothyroidism, which was actually misdiagnosed because I've been anemic from a young child. So how was yours detected that you had Graves' disease?
Well, I've been seeking answers to the myriad of health problems that I've had since childhood. Like at 5 years old, I remember just being knocked out with migraines, with aura, seeing colorful things in front of my eyes and not being able to function, having to lay down on the couch with ice packs. And, I was diagnosed with different things, but among those was hypochondriacism. Like I was a hypochondriac according to the doctors. Like nobody has all these different things happening. And the thing about it is that Graves' disease is, I call it an umbrella disease because your thyroid affects every body function. It keeps every body function healthy. So when it's sick, you're going to have multiple symptoms. I was anemic as well. I got to a point in my 40s where I was having, in my mid 40s, I started having a transfusion every year just so I could walk and talk and not, just drop into a faint. But at 50 years old, I turned 50 on December 11th of 2016, and I had this wonderful birthday party. It was a huge event at 3 Mass, and Sophie was there, Karen was there. I'm not sure if you were there, Mia, at the time, but that day I remember I was standing up on my feet cooking all day, and by the time I went to get dressed, my feet were swollen, my stomach was sticking out, and it was hurting. And the clothes that I wore that night, it's like I had gained 2 sizes or something. And I just was determined to enjoy the party. It was put on by my ex, and he had a band, he had a DJ, we had food, we had tons of people. So I just chose to ignore it. By February, my feet were so swollen that I couldn't even walk. And they looked like feet of somebody who's in a war-torn country where they don't have shoes and they can develop, sicknesses that affect the feet. And the hospital thought I was in congestive heart failure. And I knew that I wasn't, but I was there for a week. I let them pump me full of medication, which is my worst fear of my life. Sophie and her sister Karen came to the hospital and hung out with me. And I found out at that time that I was born with a heart defect. So they thought that the swollen feet was due to that. I left the hospital. When I got dressed to leave the hospital, after 1 week, my clothes were falling off of me. I had lost so much weight over that week. By April, Karen and Sophie came to 3 Mass and had an event. And so they hadn't seen me in a month or two. And that's really when they were like, you know, we don't know what's wrong, but you need to see a doctor. This is an emergency. And our friend Colleen, who has sadly passed on, at the time, she was at the meeting and she grabbed me by the shoulders and she said, Dawn, you look like I looked when I was 90 pounds and on chemo. And she had tears in her eyes, and I didn't think that I looked that bad. I knew I was in pain. I knew I had intense brain fog. I knew I was like just running on fumes like a robot. I hadn't been able to eat for weeks, more than a few bites, because my thyroid was so inflamed. Well, the next day, and my boyfriend had been telling me every night, he was like, let me take you to the emergency room. You're burning up. You're skinny. We need to find out what's going on. And I was so afraid of the drugs that they could potentially give me again that I refused to go. So Karen and Sophie convinced me. They spoke to Tim about it. He was happy that somebody had gotten through to me. And the next day they came and took me to Florida Hospital in Apopka. And when the doctor saw me, thank God Karen waited and advocated for me. She spoke to them about my the symptoms that I told her. She remembered to tell them that I had fallen the night before. And just when the doctor put her hands on my shoulders to feel my bones, she looked at me and she said, well, you are quite emaciated. And I was like, what? Emaciated? Like, that's when it finally occurred to me what people were seeing when they looked at me. And she said, she said, you fit the checklist for Graves' disease. You know, we're going to follow up and do some blood tests. We're going to take you to our other campus in Winter Park tomorrow and in the Women's Pavilion. And we're just going to, you know, verify everything, rehydrate you, feed you, and set you up with some medication and some, you know, the follow-up visits that you're going to need. I mean, I was in and out, you know, but that's what I recall of the conversation with her. And like I said, that's when like the awareness came to me of how many months it had been that people were coming into the store and saying, I just came to check on you. Do you need something to eat? Sit down, let me help, let me do something. You know, I don't want you to be on your feet or whatever. And I really didn't get it, you know. Yeah, so that's when I officially learned that I had Graves' disease.
Now, for those that don't know what Graves' disease is, because that's something you don't hear too often, and I know along with that is also, you're also diagnosed with Hashimoto. So explain a little bit about what Graves' disease is along with Hashimoto as well. I hope I pronounced it properly.
Yes, you did. So Graves' disease is when, basically Graves' disease is an autoimmune problem that causes your immune system to attack your thyroid, and you will then have hyperthyroidism. So Graves' disease is an autoimmune condition that causes hyperthyroidism, which means that your thyroid, which is like the master of most of your body functions, is racing. So your heart is racing, your brain is racing, your pulse is racing, your heart is, I mean, I think I mentioned the heart. And so it's like, imagine if somebody went to work out and they stayed on a treadmill just an indefinite amount of time. That's what you kind of feel like when you're in the throes of, as I call it, the acute phase of Graves' disease, where, I mean, you can't sleep, you can't think straight, you're thinking a million thoughts at one time. And this really brings home the fact that it's not mind over matter in some cases where people think that anything to do with the mind is like something you can will yourself into, you know, thinking straight and being positive and stuff, because when your thyroid is sick, it's literally making you confused and thinking a million things at the same time, which makes it impossible to function, especially like doing linear tasks, doing administrative stuff. That's where I really started to falter with this condition. Now, Hashimoto's is like, if you imagine a pendulum that swings, you know, either way, Hashimoto's is the pendulum swinging the other way. If you have Graves' disease, you are at some point most likely going to have Hashimoto's, which Hashimoto's is the autoimmune condition that causes an underactive thyroid, also known as hypothyroidism. And in Hashimoto's, you have kind of the opposite problem, like with Graves' disease, because of the speed, the way your digestion speeds up, you'll have problems with diarrhea. And with Hashimoto's, you'll have problems with constipation because of how slow your digestion is, because your underactive thyroid is slowing everything down. And with, I mean, these things are not, they're not really strictly, I believe, exclusive to each thing, because you can have Graves' disease and still have constipation. It's just the overwhelming majority of people would have diarrhea and or constipation with Hashimoto's. But there's also, like, you have temperature intolerance with Graves' disease. You're generally burning up, like you feel like you have a really high fever constantly. And with Hashimoto's, they generally feel cold all the time.
Wow. That's confusing,
yeah.
to the body, man.
Yeah.
And the mind.
It's really crazy, yes. Because I know there was one time where this girl that I worked with said to me, we're both always cold. And she was like, but I'm really skinny and you're not skinny, so why are you always cold? And at the time, you know, I had no explanation for it except for the fact that it's happening and it's real. Like, my nose is frozen and running all the time. And, you know, I had no idea that I had a thyroid issue and that it was something that was in the family that, you know, can carry down in the right circumstances. It's not inevitable if it's in the family that you'll contract it. But so yeah, so if you have Graves' disease, or in fact, if you have Hashimoto's, I wouldn't be surprised if the pendulum at some point will switch the other way and you'll have the other one. They are opposite ends of the same spectrum, and they're generally caused by similar things. You know, food sensitivities, high stress, and you know, yes, and stress is like is a huge trigger, and just leaky gut.
I can imagine, Don, because it says that just the Graves' disease is a condition that which it lacks, is where the red blood cells, there's not enough red blood, healthy blood cells in the body. Right. And it also, in result of that, the lack of red blood cells causes a dysfunction with the cells in your body, which leads to reduced oxygen flow through the organs, I'm sure, and that also includes flow to the brain. That would indicate why that would cause the passing out and the fainting and the lightheadedness and all of that that you were going through as well.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I remember times, there was a time in New York where I just fell out when I was trying to cross the street. I think it was Fifth Avenue in Midtown, and people had to pick me up and take me to the other side of the street, you know. Oh
boy. And
one time in my apartment, I fell out and I hit my head on the radiator on the way down, and it was just a mess. And really what happened with me in childhood, because there was no quantification, there was no diagnosis. I learned how to shut up and not complain. And so I struggled quietly, in silence, and just people had no idea except the outward manifestations of it, or like being confused, like at work, like somebody's telling me something, giving me a directive, and I'm looking at them. It appears that I'm processing it, and really my mind is a total blank, because in the back of my mind there's a million thoughts, everything from something that happened to me in childhood. What am I going to do about this? What am I going to do about that? It's just, it's very, very confusing. It is extremely confusing for it to be happening and then you not know what's happening.
Yeah, that can really be confusing, especially, when you have both of them and you're hypo and hyper, because one minute, I mean, are you like losing weight, then you're gaining weight, then you're getting hot flashes, and it's, that's very confusing itself.
Yeah, it's very debilitating. Like, one of the worst things for me is the heat intolerance, which is, it's apparently very similar to a hot flash, and it just, you get so weak and so like spacey, and just like you don't know if the moment is ever going to end, if you're gonna survive it. It's so bad.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Now, I know you have a diagram here that we talk about the hyper and hyper. Can you explain a little bit more on that one?
Yes. Okay, sorry. I'm going to it right now. So hyperthyroidism, occurs when your thyroid gland produces too much of the thyroid hormones. As we said, that makes everything, all your body systems kind of race. And it's what it has in common, amongst the other things it has in common with Hashimoto's, is that your thyroid get enlarged and possibly have nodules inside of it. You have unintentional weight loss, as we said, rapid heartbeat, irregular heartbeat, increased sweating, increased appetite, muscle fatigue, and change in menstrual patterns. Absolutely. Bulging eyes as well, along with the bulging thyroid. And the thyroid is a butterfly-shaped gland that's at the base of your throat. In hypothyroidism, hypothyroidism is a condition in which your thyroid gland doesn't produce enough of certain crucial hormones, which can be a result of you having had too many hormones running through your body during Graves' disease. So if you then transition into hypothyroidism, then you're low on thyroid hormones. And then you'll also have the swollen, inflamed thyroid, thinning eyebrows, hair loss, swelling around the eyes. The thyroid eye disease can happen in either case. A puffy face, and your symptoms would be weight gain, fatigue and weakness, a slowed heart rate, elevated blood cholesterol level, muscle weakness, muscle aches, and changes in menstrual cycle as well. Now, what's interesting is that Western medicine sees the cure for Graves' disease as being Hashimoto's or hypothyroidism. So they will actively try to get you to a place where either you have your thyroid removed and then you'll be hypo for the rest of your life and live on the medication for hypo, or you take the radioactive pill that kills the thyroid, but it's not physically removed from the body. So so they're not really looking for you to go into remission or for you to to recover, which we know that most autoimmune diseases are something that you might have to deal with for the rest of your life. However, you know, wellness can be just reaching a place where you feel well and your hormones are imbalanced rather, but they see the cure, they see Graves' disease as being more serious than hypothyroidism, and they see hypothyroidism as being a cure for Graves' disease. We think they're both terrible. So.
Wow. Wow, that's a whole lot to absorb. I don't know, just listening to it. I mean, I can just, it can be so overwhelming. I'm pretty sure. I can only imagine what it is like being somebody who's living with either. I want to commend you, Dawn, for taking the time out to sharing with us. I knew, first of all, I want to go back and say that party that you had in 2016, that party was a bomb, okay?
Wasn't it? Yes.
It was a good party.
Yes.
And
yes.
I'm glad.
Like, where was I?
You were, Dawn, you were there. I'm pretty sure you were there. If you go back to the clip.
I think you were.
You were there. I'm pretty sure you were. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I think you were part of our team by then.
I got to dig down the photo gallery to see.
But
you might not have known it was a birthday party. It was a full-on disco scene.
Oh, okay.
It was good.
All right.
Talking about party. One day, hopefully, we'll get back to all of that again when all this COVID thing is over.
Man.
But yeah, I'm glad that I was able to be there with you. I mean, it was a very scary. I'm going back to being there with you that day in the hospital, and it was pretty scary. It was pretty scary. Taking you was pretty scary. With you getting the diagnosis, it was pretty scary period in general. And I know if I felt that way, I can only imagine how you felt. Yeah. All that information that you've had to absorb and all of that and everything that you just said, it's such a mouthful. And yeah. But let me ask you something. I know, and I thank you for taking the time to share it with us, and it's your courage for doing it. It's very courageous. And
my pleasure.
And I love this platform. Mia, thank you so much for creating it, because that's what it's about. It's about coming together as a Caribbean under one, culture, to come together and share stories and experiences and challenges, and just try to be there for one another, and just being on this panel it's a privilege, it's a blessing. And going back to Grace, going back to all of that, with the fact that one of the challenges that you have with lack of oxygen flowing through your body on a regular basis, the hot, the cold, the competition between the two diagnoses, hyper and hypo.
Yeah.
Hyper and hypo.
Exactly. Both of them. Two of them high. So it must be
one high and one drop down.
Talking about being high. And I'm trying to keep it light because it is a serious thing, all right? But the fact that you have to go, you got this continual back and forth and mixed signals, in your body, the one body that you live in, dealing with all of this. How, on the heels of us coming off of last month, which was, and the month before, Mental Health Wellness Month and all of that, has this affected you in any way that is, has it messed with your emotional, psychological? I know obviously it must have touched your brain, because with lack of oxygen going to your brain, and people probably were telling you that you're being melodramatic in a sense, because, growing up as a kid, and all of that, with not being able to have a diagnosis at first, proper diagnosis. Has it affected you in a psychological, emotional, obviously I can only imagine, how has that impacted you, your health on a wellness level? And I hope I'm not being too...
Thank you so much.
No.
For
those who are listening,
we're gonna go there. We're gonna go there. It's really important for people to know that this condition does come with emotional issues and mental health issues and cognitive issues as well. And it's a very, very good question, Sophie, because yes, I have struggled with depression and anxiety my entire life. I didn't know what they were. And I thought I was the strangest person in the world. Everything that happened to me, everything, even if somebody looked at me and with a kind look, I would cry profusely. Like I couldn't control myself, and not knowing that it was a thyroid hormone problem. If I'm angry, I cry. If I'm happy, I cry. If I'm hurt, I cry. You know, it's
Almost like
extremely
postpartum
frustrating.
depression.
Right,
Like
and that's
postpartum
what
depression we go through, that emotional.
right. And you know what's interesting is that people can develop Graves' disease through pregnancy as well. So who knows if that, you know, that plays some part in it, because some cases of, you know, any autoimmune disease, you can get them temporarily, including Graves' disease, and then they go away once things stabilize in your life, or maybe you return to more healthy habits or whatever. So I wouldn't be surprised if in some cases that might have something to do with it. But yeah, depression has been a big feature in my life. And in 2009, I earnestly sought out some help from a therapist. When I was living in Connecticut, I would see her office every day when I walked to the train. And I just walked in there one day and I was like, I need an appointment. Like, you have no idea how badly I need an appointment. And she turned out to be such a kind-hearted person, and she was just meant for me. We both sew, we both write, we both we like so many of the same things, and she was able to encourage me to work on my art and my crafts as part of my therapy. And then now I started back in therapy in late 2019, and it has been a huge help for me. And now I know that I have clinical depression, which is a biological thing. It's not a choice. It's not choosing to be pessimistic or just like, you know, being like a Debbie Downer or whatever. It's a serious affliction that I'll tell you something that I had an experience where it was kind of something that showed some progress, because like I said, I used to just be quiet about everything and not talk to people, but I reached out to the suicide hotline at one point because of how badly I felt desperate, because I want to, you know, have continue on the path that I'm on and have a great future. But at the same time, you have these moments where you just, with depression, with extreme depressive episodes, where you just feel like, I don't want to be here right now. I just really do not want to exist right now. And so I actually, when I was on hold with them, one of my girlfriends called me and she was able to talk me down. But if anybody finds themselves in that situation, just realize that you are important and you need to talk to somebody, and just please do something that's going to, you know, keep you with us. You're important. You're important and you matter.
Amen. You know, Dawn,
Amen.
I'm glad you took the time to dial that number. God bless you. And even that person who called you in that moment, that was an angelic move. You are here and you're going through all this. And this is something I say all the time, and I know it sounds really repetitive. To whom much is given, much is required. Even the trying times, even the pain, even the diagnosis, even this that you're going through right now. And the fact that even that part of the story that you just shared a while ago, thank you so much for doing that, Dawn. I love you so much. And I respect and I admire you for doing that, because this recording, whoever's going to be viewing this is going to touch somebody. And and it's gonna bring, probably you will be the person who encourages them to dial a number. I'm getting goosebumps.
Mm.
I hope so.
Reach out.
I really hope so.
And let them know that they're not alone.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
It takes a lot of
I love
courage,
that.
Yes.
you know,
Okay.
for, you know, all of us, or, you know, somebody that is, you know, going through or still battling any kind of illness or condition, that somewhere along there you're going to deal with some kind of mental health. But to have the courage to
Yes.
call and seek help,
Yes.
you know, that's something that, you know, myself, I stress so much. And it's not about you being crazy or, you know, a sign of weakness. It's just getting the help and just sorting out whatever problems that you have and get to the root of the problem so that you can get
Yes.
to mental wellness.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, absolutely. And
Now,
you know,
Dawn, you
me, I
have,
want to let you. Mhm.
go ahead.
Sorry, I was just going to say quickly that, you know, writing for your magazine and being a part of this, these are things that give me so much hope for my future, and they're a big part of like anchoring me in my pursuit of mental health. So thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. You know, and that's part of, you know, therapeutic. We find therapy in, you know, different things we do. You know, you find it in writing. Sometimes it's
Mhm.
writing that stuff out and you're sharing information to help others. So it helps them
Yes,
and it helps you as well too. So it's a combination of both. I know earlier when we were talking, you had
absolutely.
talked about some facts. Can you share some of the facts on Graves' disease? And I'll put the slide on the screen.
Yes. Okay, sure. So hyperthyroidism facts. Now, these are just a few. There's many to know, but just to give people a basic idea, hyperthyroidism affects 1.2% of the U.S. population, which is good to know because it's not exactly rare, but this is probably why it's not something that people know about. Women are 2 to 10 times more likely to be affected. Higher risk, you're at a higher risk for getting it after 6 months of pregnancy. This sheet says that you're at a higher risk over the age of 60. I have heard other numbers as well, but you know that makes sense as people start to age, that you know these autoimmune things, but it's not inevitable. It's not inevitable. There are things you can do. Graves' disease affects 1% of the U.S. population. So hyperthyroidism is a condition that you can have without having Graves' disease. Like for instance, people who might be exposed to radiation. The radiation might hurt their thyroid and they might develop hyperthyroidism from that. So it's not always a case where somebody who has hyperthyroidism has Graves' disease. But if you have Graves' disease, you will have hyperthyroidism. And sorry, the last one. Okay, I just said that. Graves' disease affects 1% of the U.S. population.
And you speak on another item as well too. I think it was something warning. I'm not missing. I'm trying to let me put the screen
Oh,
up.
the
Thyroid storm warning, and some of the
yes.
treatments that you can also to lessen the cause of Graves' disease.
Yes. So a thyroid storm is a rare occurrence that happens when Graves' disease is untreated, or when the things that trigger the Graves' disease are really, really high, like stress, the person's not eating, or they're eating foods that they're super sensitive to.
So is that like a flare-up?
Yeah, this is a thyroid storm, I would say, is a flare, but it's also its own condition within Graves' disease. It's gosh, I can't even see this. Mia, I'm so sorry. I don't have my glasses with me.
Sure.
Um,
What do you, I can read something for you.
for yeah, you can read the bullet points on the thyroid storm warning.
Okay. Oh, they're very small.
Yeah, the thyroid
Yeah.
gland.
Yeah, I
So
know. Well, the
Right.
thyroid gland, and then the different
okay,
areas of it.
okay. Yeah, I didn't realize it was so fuzzy. I'm sorry, but so the
Hmm.
thyroid gland is important to know. It is, as we said, the butterfly shaped gland that's at the base of your throat. When it's healthy, it is butterfly shaped. When it's inflamed and has nodules, either both lobes or one lobe will be bigger and stick out visibly, where people can look at you and see that it's sticking out.
Oh,
Um, that's the point at which you will. There's other thyroid sicknesses too, and God forbid, there's also thyroid cancer. So you never know if you need to, if you're treating, if you're dealing with cancer, or if you're dealing with Graves' disease or Hashimoto's or thyroiditis. So detection and diagnosis is very, very important. If you ever feel this area inflamed and swollen, please go to the doctor. Please make them care as much as you care about this situation. It's better for them to test it, take a blood test and say nothing's wrong, than for you to, ignore it. Um, and
What?
so the thyrotoxic crisis. So the thyrotoxic crisis, this is something that happened to me. The reason why we have this slide on here is because I got diagnosed with Graves' disease in April of 2017, but in August of 2017, I was doing better. My family had sent me away to Seventh-day Adventist Health Retreat. In May, like things were looking up. I was still very, very skinny and had tremors and had the brain fog and stuff, but I knew that I was on the right path. But then in July, my general practitioner, the nurse practitioner that I saw, said, we think that we have to take you off of this medication that they gave you in the hospital, to see if you still have Graves' disease. We're going to need the symptoms to come back in order for us to diagnose you with Graves' disease. And I was like, what?
what?
So yeah, because it's not like a walk in the park. It's extremely painful.
Wow.
I mean, I was so skinny that when I slept, I got calluses on my hips and on my butt. Like,
Oh boy.
it was crazy. And so she took me off of the meds, and so when hyperthyroidism is untreated, you can develop this thyroid storm. So I had this one day, I was with my ex-boyfriend Tim at the store, and we were going to finish. I was finished the work day. Our friend was showing her film that she had made, premiering it at the Orlando Museum of Art, which Karen had helped her to Karen and Brian, I think, and maybe even you, Sophie, had helped her to secure that space and figure out how to do all of that. And so we couldn't go. I mean, Tim ended up going. I encouraged him to go afterwards, but I started shaking. Like, I was sitting in the chair at the store and I started shaking, and he looked at me and he was like, what's going on? And there was a line in front of him, and I'm one of those people, like, I don't want to be a bother. I went around the back and I laid down on one of the couches, and my head was shaking from side to side. I could not stop myself, and I just was trying to take a nap, but it just kept. And then amazingly, somebody who had been at the health retreat with in Tennessee in May, she just happened to be in town, and they looked me up at the store, and she was like, she messaged our WhatsApp group and said, I'm with Dawn and she doesn't look good. I think she needs to go to the hospital. And so, you know, her and Tim talked. I didn't know, like at that point I was completely out of it. And I was like, you know, I have the medication in my bag. I think I'm going to start taking it again. So I took it, and she looked at me and she said, that's not going to work. Like that's not going to work, sis. And so Tim, there was another man who was there, another one of our customers. When he locked up, they both were on either side of me, holding me under the armpits and dragging me to the car because I could not move. And when we got to Health Central, I just remember Tim was asking me, like, which hospital do you want to go to? Because you were treated for the Graves' disease at Florida Hospital. And I was just like, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know anything right now. And he took me and he dropped me at the front door, and then he went to park. And I didn't even know what happened because I was standing there and I couldn't say anything. And he ran up behind me and grabbed me and said to the security guard, she needs a wheelchair. She needs a wheelchair right now. And they took me in a wheelchair, and then they said, what's wrong with you? I said, I have Graves' disease and I can't stop shaking. And we're like, oh my God, you're having a thyroid storm. I was admitted to the ICU. They pumped me full of medications again, everything from blood pressure medication to thyroid medication. And I don't know what all else was in that cocktail. All I know is that I had to go to the bathroom, and they had a potty next to my bed. And there was this nurse that was with me, this African-American lady. And I just remember looking at her, and she was so pretty. And I was just looking at her like, wow, I look like a hot mess. And she laughed, and she was like, you're having a thyroid storm, so it's okay. And I said, I need to go to the toilet, the one out in the hallway. And she was like, why? The potty's right here. I need your fall risk, so I'm going to have to help you go to the potty. And I was like, I can't go to the bathroom in front of you. Like, I don't even know you. And she was like, girl, I'm a nurse. You have no idea what I've seen.
That still don't even matter.
Let me help you. And she swung my feet around, and she lifted me up and put me on the potty. And I was just like, yes, because I didn't know. I had just woken up from whatever stupor I was in. I had no idea that that was even where I had to ask her where I was at first, and then when I got back into bed, they came with a frozen blanket that looked like some space age material. I said, "Is that frozen?" And we're like, "Yes. Your temperature, you're at 104, and that's really dangerous." And I said, but I'm cold. And they said, that's what happens when you have a thyroid storm. Wow. And then so they put it on me, and I was like, holy crap, this is so painful to be under a frozen piece of ice. Like, it was wild. And but they did their job. And in the past, I hadn't really had great experiences at that hospital, but when I went for the time that they detected the heart defect in February, and then at that in that case with the thyroid storm, they were so nice. I mean, I really can't say enough about how they held my hand, and they talked to me, and they encouraged me, and they were concerned, and it was just amazing. So yeah, so I was in the ICU for 3 days, and then I ended up going home. And then when I saw my doctor, I went in as a walk-in to my doctor, and I was like, I was in the hospital in the ICU because somebody took me off my medication. I'm not going to mention any names, but she's you. So this just goes to show that, I mean, we're not doctors, we're lay people, but we need to know what we're dealing with. Like, we need to, don't let anybody put you at risk, if you know of somebody who's either they've been through something similar, or they happen to be an expert on subject, or because I wanted to say Google, but without really being aware of what exactly you're looking for, you can get a lot of different information
That's true.
that might not apply. So it just use discernment, whatever the case is, and just don't let yourself get. Thyroid storm is a life-threatening event. That's what they told me. If my boyfriend hadn't have brought me in when he did, that I might not have survived. So,
Wow.
so just please take care of yourself.
What are some of the treatments, Dawn, to treat Graves' disease?
In Western medicine, they have the radioiodine therapy, which you can see on this slide, is basically they use radioactivity to kill the thyroid. So this way it's stopping the overactive hormones, thyroid hormones, but then it's also stopping all the hormones. So the thyroid is inactive at that point. For the rest of your life, your thyroid will not be able to produce hormones, and you'll have to then live on the medication that people with Hashimoto's take to give them a baseline of normal functioning thyroid hormones. Let me see. Medications, which I am on methimazole, and in 2018, after I gained weight, and I started to my weight gain started to accelerate. Like I was gaining like 10 pounds every month. And when I got to my regular like 155, I was like, I don't think that this is right. So I did take myself off of it, and wouldn't you know, I had a total relapse in around Thanksgiving of 2018, and I had to be put back on the medication, and just the shock of it made my hair fall out for like the third time since 2017, so I have been on it ever since. And I'm not saying that if you want to go the natural route, there are definitely things you can do, but you have to decide for yourself. Like, I feel like my situation is so stressful that I need something to mitigate it while I work on learning how to deal and cope with extreme chronic stress. So I am taking methimazole. It does suppress the thyroid hormones. That is one of the medications that you could take. And the other option is surgery, which removes the thyroid, or possibly removes the nodules, or maybe only the part of the thyroid that might be affected. And however much of the thyroid is taken out, whether it's a piece or whether it's the whole thing, depending on what's left is what you would have that would then be producing the hormones that you need. And most likely you would still need to be living on medication. And there are natural, as I said, natural alternatives too, which I still do a host of natural things for myself. I read an article for a woman who was able to get rid of the nodules in her thyroid by rubbing castor oil on it every night. And I've done that, and my thyroid is much smaller than it was before.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
So I highly recommend that. Whether you have Hashimoto's or Graves' disease, just try it. It's benign. It can't do anything negative to you. So I would definitely try that.
And I know
recommend that, because
I know time is running out on us and all of that. But what about diet? Does your diet?
Yes.
Would you say?
Yes, absolutely. Diet is very pivotal. I feel like, although I might have had Graves' disease since childhood, I definitely got to a place, and this happened to me a few times, where I became less strict with my diet because of not having time to cook or make my salads and or drink water, or drink enough water, etc. So one of the first things I would say, your first line of defense, is to heal the lining of the gut. You can do that by like drinking bone broth. If you're vegan, you can take L-glutamine supplements. Remove gluten from your diet. It is so bad for most autoimmune diseases, and with thyroid disease. If you have thyroid disease, I can 100% tell you that you most likely have a sensitivity to gluten. So I'm going to read from our slide, because there's a million things I could say about this, but just to stay on track. Do have antioxidant-rich foods, anti-inflammatory foods, good fats, healthy protein foods, anti-inflammatory herbs and spices, calcium-rich foods, magnesium-rich foods, selenium-rich foods, vitamin D-rich foods. Don't have gluten, don't have iodine-rich foods, don't have trans fats, sugars or high fructose corn syrup, artificial sweeteners, artificial and processed foods, caffeine, hormones, pesticides, genetically modified GMO foods. So basically, stay away from packaged foods, stay away from little snack cakes, stay away from chips that have flavoring. Basically, you want your diet to be high in your leafy greens, in your healthy fats like unrefined, organic, virgin, extra virgin coconut oil, extra virgin olive oil. You can even take them as a supplement. Your anti-inflammatory herbs and spices like ginger, turmeric, garlic, etc. Magnesium-rich foods. I take magnesium supplement because I tend to be deficient in it. Calcium-rich foods. Do not try to get your calcium from dairy if you have a thyroid disease. Dairy is another toxin to your thyroid if you have thyroid disease. So your calcium-rich foods, you actually can get calcium through your leafy greens as well. Selenium, I take a selenium pill every day because it literally heals the thyroid. And vitamin D rich foods or supplements, I supplement in 5,000 IUs of vitamin D a day. That's also another remedy for helping with Graves' disease.
Wow, it's a lot to take in, and
Yes.
Good information, sister.
Thank you so much.
Once again,
Yes,
I want to say I feel grateful to have you as one of our sisters here, and for you to come out and allow yourself to be vulnerable and share. I commend you. Pat yourself on your shoulder, sister. He who feels it knows it.
Mm-hmm.
And again, everything that you've been going through is because you have some work to do, sis. And even this platform that you're given right now, right here, it's for a purpose. You're walking in your purpose.
Yes.
You said earlier that you like the fact that you're able to write, and writing with KU magazine, with me, and again, you're walking in your purpose because it's what you put out. Once you speak from your heart, you touch souls. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And
yes,
and when you can speak not just from your heart, but also from your heart with experience, wow, that's a wealth of knowledge, and it's to impact somebody. And I think that whoever's going to be watching this will get a wealth of information from you that they can hopefully apply to their lives, or share with somebody who they think may be going through something similar based upon the symptoms and your discovery journey. So I
thank you so much. Thank you, Sophie.
It's a pleasure to hear you speak about it, sister. I know it's painful and all of that, not that part, but the fact that you're walking on the right road. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for all that you've poured into me, and you too, Mia. Thank you.
Oh, we thank you. And, we're so happy that you're part of this team because, I mean, over the years, you have shared so much knowledge of wealth and, eating foods. And another subject we'll talk about eating foods according to your blood type, which will come later on. That's another conversation. But just continue to show us that no matter what you go through, that the hope and the courage, and you still strive in doing things that you love to do and not giving up. And I appreciate you, a part of KO Magazine, sharing your knowledge and also bringing people on in the same traditional medicine and sharing their knowledge as well with us. But just keep going. We are a sister's keeper. So, we're always here for you and just to keep you going because we know that times gets rough and we can get into loneliness, depression, anxiety, but having that support system to keep going and just keep uplifting so that we can continue to rise together. So again, Dawn, thank you for sharing your story of Graves' disease, and we'll continue to keep sharing information on the Facebook pages on Graves' disease, and hopefully there's others out there that are, also coping with it and battling Graves' disease, that we can share that information. They can share what they've been doing to help others as well too. So again, Dawn, thank you so much. And Sophie, before we close out, where can we stay connected with you? Any final words?
Oh, me? Well, I just want to say, first of all, I want to say I want to say thanks again. And you can reach me. I'm going to tell you, you can reach me every day, anytime, on the Sophie G Show, Mondays through Fridays, 11 a.m. until 2 p.m. on Caribbean Rhythms Radio Network. You can reach me on Instagram at This Sophie G Show. You can reach me at email at This Sophie G Show, and also on Facebook at The Sophie G Show, as well as you can text a sister, call a sister, 321-420-0747, 321-420-0747. And I want to say, most of us who are listening are going to be watching this are from the Caribbean and the islands somehow, whichever one. And a lot of things one thing we all have in common, well, a lot of us have in common, coming from the island, is that growing up, we find there's so many of us who heard that we're anemic, and if you should ever be told or have been told or know somebody who's been told that you're anemic and you have symptoms that seem similar to what our sister Dawn has shared with us about lightheadedness and all them things there growing up, if you reach a certain age and you feel like you still haven't got a handle of it, and I suggest that you go talk to your doctor, make a notation of everything that's going on with you, and take that notebook or notepad into your doctor's office. Again, based upon our disclaimer that we put up on the screen before and after the show, we are no doctors here. We are just trying to help one another as sisters helping sisters, and sharing our stories, our journeys, and our challenges, and to how we could probably help you, who may probably be going through the same thing. Just remember that we're here to love on one another, share on one another, whether it is good or bad, because it's about being authentic as much as we can. That's who real sisters are, and real brothers are, and real love is, to share the good and the bad. And when we come together every single month, it's to do just that. Highlight good, highlight situations that may need to be addressed, and share our stories and our journey. And once again, just remember to love on yourself enough to go and check yourself enough. Go to your doctor, listen to Dawn's story, share this link, and don't text, in Jamaica we say, no text sleep on it. That means, or be as wise as a serpent and harmless as a dove. Use the information that you've been blessed with and let it work for you or somebody you know. And if you feel like you don't need it, share it, because that's what it's all about. It takes a village. We love you. Until next time, real love, real sister Sophie G. Manala, I'm not try. Thank you, Dee. Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, so, Dawn, do you have any final
Thank
words
you.
before we close out?
This has been such an honor. I literally want to become an advocate for this issue and the wider issue of autoimmune diseases in general. Please know that, you know, if you have an autoimmune disease, you might get more autoimmune diseases. So please work on your diet. Reach out to me if you have any questions. If it's something that I'll be able to answer, you can give me a call at 786-309-8390. That's the number that I give out for people who are interested in health counseling. And I'm also on Andrea Jackson's show on WOKB at that goes from 8 to 8:30 on Thursday nights, giving a health tip. And look out for all of our articles in KUO Magazine as well. And you know, next year I'm hoping that that we won't have COVID and that we'll be able to do a live event for Graves' Disease Awareness Month. But this has been so amazing. I did this month to go by without doing something towards this, and it's been a great opportunity to not only be one of the contributors on this show, but to talk about something that I'm really passionate about. Thank you, ladies. Thank you, Mia.
Thank you so much, Dawn. And on behalf of GLOW, I want to thank you, the viewers, for tuning in again for another segment of GLOW. We're celebrating and bringing awareness in July for Graves' Disease Awareness Month. And again, we just encourage you to get your annual checkups. And if you get that gut feeling something is wrong, get a second opinion. Don't let it rest, because you just never know, you know, what you'll get diagnosed with. And we want to, you know, keep you well as well. And don't forget to continue to watch and check out KUO Magazine on our several brands. The current issue featuring Wayne Golden, attorney Wayne Golden, and we are on Facebook at KUO Magazine, and Instagram, official KUO Magazine, and official Men of Culture 365, official Women of Culture, and on Facebook, GLOW under Greater Level of Wellness 365 and Ribbons of Survivors. And also, this show is sponsored by QuaileyWorks. For more information on QuaileyWorks, please visit QuaileyWorks.com or email them at QuaileyWorks@gmail.com. And we are a group of faculty members that are motivational speakers. So don't forget to log on and check them out as well. Again, thank you for tuning in, and we will definitely see you again next month on the GLOW as well. I am Mia Allman, and take care, be well, and don't forget to stay well and find your glow within you, which is the greater level of wellness.
That's right. Bye, guys.
Bye.